This is Brandon with Fleet Feet, and today I've got the adidas Supernova Prima, a premium daily trainer from Adidas. Now, I was the only person on the Fleet Feet review team to receive this shoe, so you'll only be hearing my thoughts, but do know that some of the other videos that we have coming out in the future will include other reviewer notes. Now, before the Supernova Prima, Adidas came out with the Supernova Rise, which is a little bit more of a minimal and a little bit of a lower ground feel version of this shoe. Now, the question I kind of want to think about a little bit in this video is, why do you need the Rise when you have the Prima? Which one is better for what, and kind of what do they solve? Why would they stay in the same line? Because while I go through this video, you're gonna notice something, and that is that the Prima is pretty similar to that of the Rise with just a few little bits of tweaks. Both of these shoes have the same last and the same fit and very similar uppers. But the Prima does have an extra 2 millimeters of foam in this shoe, so it is a little bit of a higher stack than that of the Rise. And the Rise has a 10 millimeter drop and the Prima has an 8 millimeter drop, which means there's gonna be a little bit more of an elevated focus of forefoot landing in the Prima. Adidas have always sort of led the way in innovative and high performance running shoes. The Adidas Pro 3 is a great example. The Prime X Strung is another example of that. Now it's time for Adidas to develop their daily trainer line, and that is exactly what they're doing here with the Prima and the Rise. And before we go any further, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can stay tuned for when all of our new videos come out. Now, moving on to the upper. The upper has an engineered mesh upper. And overall, I found that the fit was great and it was true to size, especially for me. The Prima does have a gusseted tongue. It is minimally padded, but you can see there's quite a bit of support here around the heel collar. And overall, I just love the clean look that Adidas is establishing here. It's one of the areas that Adidas does so well, and that is not just making a high performance shoe, but a shoe that looks good too. And you can see that through the men's model here, this all white, very clean look, something you can wear out as well as on a run. And I just love the women's colorway too. Very clean, very simple, minimal detail, and the colors go together really well. And with these two colorways, it sort of establishes Adidas as a little bit of a lifestyle and crossover brand as well as a running brand. You can tell that they're really trying to make a shoe that not just caters to runners, but for those who may want to go to the gym or walk around in this shoe. It's a very stylish shoe, so it's one that I really like for that reason. And if you wanted to test out or try this shoe on for yourself, you can go into your local Fleet Feet store, you can get your foot scanned, go through the Fit ID experience and the outfitting process. You can try this shoe on for yourself and see whether it works for you. Now, moving on to the midsole. The big hero in the midsole is this new foam called DreamStrike Plus from Adidas, which is a blend of EVA and PEBA. And you can actually see that there's this blue layer here, which is that DreamStrike. And additionally with that, this is a 2-layer dual density foam. So there is a firmer foam on the bottom. You've got this bluish orange foam here that kind of runs through the bottom of the shoe. And that is a firmer and a little bit denser EVA foam, which is gonna create a little bit more stability on landing. One thing that I do wanna note about this shoe is that it is very flexible and reactive. And you can see that it sort of creases right where the DreamStrike foam is. So when you're kind of going through your stride, it just reacts really nicely and pops up very quickly. Adidas created not only a responsive shoe, but one that is very supportive and comfortable too. And from just a step-in feel and the overall fit of the upper, the shoe was snug. It fit really nice on foot. It was comfortable. So it was great not just to run in, but to walk in too. And the stack of the shoe comes in at 37.5 in the heel and 29.5 in the forefoot, which is giving you an 8 millimeter drop. This is going to be a higher stack option than that of the Rise, and it's going to be a bit of a lower drop. So if you're looking for a shoe with more cushion, more stack, but a lower drop, then this is a good shoe for that. Now, moving on to the outsole. Now, the outsole is made up of what Adidas is calling a GPU outsole, and you can see here that it actually takes up around about 3/4 of the shoe and the outsole here. Does GPU mean that it's a rubber outsole? We're not actually that sure. We actually reached out to Adidas and we're waiting to hear back on that. So once we have the finalized idea of that, we'll add it to the description and let you know. But what you can tell about this outsole is that most of the rubber coverage is in the forefoot, and that is because Adidas is really trying to focus on a forefoot strike and forefoot landing in this shoe. All of the design aesthetics of the shoe are sort of designed around that strike placement. So you can tell that's where the DreamStrike Plus is. That's where most rubber coverage is here on the outsole, and overall from the drop, it's just going to force your forefoot to really take most of that impact, which is going to push you forward on your runs. And another thing that is unique to just Adidas in the outsole is these support rods that you see going through the shoe. This is something Adidas has been doing for a little bit. You can see that there's actually support rods in the performance versions and in the Rise, but these support rods actually act similar to that of metatarsals for your feet. So it's just going to provide a little bit more support in those areas. Now moving on to the ride and performance. You can tell that the Prima is created specifically for runners. Adidas clearly pays a lot of attention to detail in this shoe, and it's closely aligned to a lot of other elevated daily trainers. And what does that really mean? Well, if the Supernova Rise is just a neutral daily trainer, this is an elevated version of that. So it's gonna have a little bit more premium tech. It's just going to have a little bit more stack, more comfort, and more support. Given the lower drop of the Prima versus the Rise, you can just tell that the Prima has a little bit of more focus on that forefoot landing. The weight of the men's model comes in at 10.3 ounces or 292 grams. And the women's model at 8.5 ounces or 242 grams. And the price of this shoe comes in at $160, which falls closely in line with other shoes like the Asics Nimbus 26, which is $160, the Hoka Skyflow, which is $160, and the New Balance 1080 V13 at $165. But if you don't want to spend $160 for this shoe, I would definitely recommend the Rise at $140. If you want something that is a similar feel and similar technology, and you want to shoot from Adidas, then either the Prime or the Rise are great options. But if you want less ground feel, go with the Prima, and if you want more ground feel, then go with the Rise. Make sure to go into your local Fleet Feet store and find this shoe for yourself and try it on and see if it works best for you. And what video should we do next? Drop that in the comments below, whether it's a comparison video or a full review, let us know. And if you want to hear more about the Supernova Prima or the Rise or other Adidas shoes in general, you can go to the blog at fleetfeet.com and check out our thoughts there. And as always, make sure to follow us on all of our social channels wherever we might be.